This book, my book, almost wasn't a book. It started as a task created for me by my business coach to document what I had done to avoid self-examination. He has great instincts, at least when it comes to me. He recognized that I've spent my entire life cloaked in protective mechanisms that no previous coaches could see, or at least they never pointed them out to me. Had I not had this task and the resulting discoveries, then I wouldn't have the specific game-changing truths in my book of life to share with you, along with shaping my mission, passion, and messages that I'm confident the world needs to know. This book, my book, almost wasn't a book. This is in part because I almost died at a family pool party. This wasn't just a brush with mortality like you might have if you were close to being fatally harmed, perhaps because you had a slip and fall cracking your skull. It was indeed a brush with mortality where I was seriously injured, yet it was much more. Classically, I encountered what is called a near-death experience, also known by the letters NDE. Though I will share more of the details of that part of my journey later in this book, it is less about what happened to me during the NDE, which included contact with energies or beings outside of this world. It is more about how it shaped my mission, passion, and messages that I'm confident the world needs to know. This book, my book, almost wasn't a book. There are some aspects of my journey that I've carried around with me for years. Oh, so many years. With such a sense of dread and shame, it seemed impossible and especially painful to look at, let alone to share. Yet now, I am fully able to tell my story, a story deeply examined, that too has shaped my mission, passion, and messages that I'm confident the world needs to know. This book, my book, almost wasn't a book. One of my protection mechanisms was learned over a lifetime. I learned that if I spoke in specific corporate, technical, industry, or even spiritual lingo, that I didn't have to truly share my heart, just words and information. It was a powerful lesson where I could be more vulnerable, which made me more powerful. I will share how that is possible later in the book. Yet gaining the power to be vulnerable and share my story has made it possible to speak and write without those protections, further enriching and shaping my mission, passion, and messages that I'm confident the world needs to know. By now, you see a pattern. This book almost wasn't a book, and I have clarity on my mission, passion, and game-changing messages. When I explore with you my near-death experience, my discoveries, and the true nature of my journey, and the messages that come from that journey, you will get to see how they might impact the lives of others, perhaps even yours. It's not that the near-death experience, the brush with mortality, the exposure to the possibility of dying, that really is what this book is about. That was merely an eye-opening moment. It's about realizing that for almost all of us, part of our conditioning is steeped in survival as our prime directive. Accordingly, we humans typically feel safer bypassing the options to heal and to thrive, seemingly because we sense it will be uncomfortable or too much work to change. Stop the bypass is less about exploring those things that protect us or keep us in place, and much more about seeing that we have ways, many ways, of living and loving a full-on and exquisite life. In most ways, Stop the Bypass isn't about doing things. It's really about learning to do new things that bring us quality relationships, joy, and all other forms of abundance. My near-death experience abruptly reframed my understanding of life. It alerted me to the dangers of keeping safe, allowing me to see that I could stop the bypass and experience a thriving life. In other words, The near-death experience wasn't about dying and the limitations of life. It was about learning to embrace new and more meaningful things without fear. It was the writing of this book, not the near-death experience, where I have been truly born, awakened, and enlivened to live and love in full-on ways. One of the many messages that I'm confident the world needs to know, and I am here to deliver that message. So buckle up, because we haven't yet really started to tell the story, my story, that makes these messages so real and meaningful for everyone in the world that is able to receive them.